Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Homestand Show. On the show today, we have Jelani Goodridge-Reid. He's going to be in here talking some NFL news, big news surrounding Aaron Rodgers. Also, Steven Psihogios of NorthStar Bets stops by to talk about the Leafs and the Avalanche. Some big news concerning Auston Matthews and a potential injury. We'll get to that. Also, Crina Mustafa will stop by. We're going to be talking March Madness. But let's get to the big news of the day. Finally, out of the darkness and into the light, Aaron Rodgers has spoken, and here's what he had to say.
I think since Friday, I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Okay.
And I haven't been holding anything up at this point. It's been compensation that the Packers are trying to get for me and kind of digging their heels in. So I would just, I think it is interesting at this point to step back and look at the whole picture. My side, love and appreciation, gratitude for everything that Green Bay has done for me. So much love and gratitude and just heart open for the Packer fans.
Hell yeah.
And what it's meant to be their quarterback. And also the reality of the situation, like it is what it is. The Packers would like to move on. They've let me know that in so many words. They've let other people know that in direct words. And because I still have that fire and I want to play and I would like to play in New York. It's just a matter of, getting that done at this point.
That was Aaron Rodgers earlier on the Pat McAfee show saying that his intention is to join the Jets. Across from me, Justin Pooni, my co-host. Ooh. What a face. Jelani Goodridge-Reid, he's in here to talk about this Aaron Rodgers news. So his intention is to join the Jets. It seems like the two teams, according to Rodgers, are holding up the deal. Right. It took him about half an hour to get that out, by the way. If you sit around and watch that. Your thoughts on what he said and how this whole thing is playing out?
Well, it seems as if Rodgers is a New York Jets. You are a New York Jet. We knew this was going to happen, right? Because the options were slim. Because he could have went back to the Packers, but he let that drag out. And then the Packers were like, okay, you know what? We don't want you anymore. All right, we don't want you anymore, so that's not going to happen. We want Jordan Love, QB1. Then the options, became either retirement or New York. So he's a New York Jet. We'll see what happens with the deal. There are some reports surfacing that the Pack want a Matthew Stafford type deal. So that's like multiple firsts. We'll see if the Jets are willing to do that. But, Albert, we'll see what happens with this whole Jets thing because they're in a tough AFC, man. The AFC is tough. Like, if you're looking across the board, right, you're talking about 10 teams deep that can make the playoffs. And remember, there's only like 14 teams in the division. Exactly. If my math is good.
Well done.
Yeah. So we'll see. Wait, is it 14? No, 16. My bad. Yeah.
Teams,
see, guys, I am not a mathematician.
Don't look at me. I am not a mathematician. Yeah, sure.
My thing is that there's like 10 teams that you could say right now can make a playoff run, right? So I don't know where the Jets fit in there. They have to shore up that offensive line. They're not going to win automatically, not in my opinion. They still have to address other areas on this roster. But I do love this for the league. I think this is great for the league. New York, huge market, the biggest market compared to Green Bay, which is the smallest.
New York, New Jersey.
I know.
East brother for quickly. So the odds right now for the Jets to win the AFC East, plus 220, to win the AFC Championship, plus 750, to win the Super Bowl, 15-1. And you mentioned it, right? There's a lot of firepower on that side, which is one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers had this quote-unquote wish list for Lazard, who has signed a deal now, or is going to sign a deal with the Jets, and he wants Odell Beckham. But he's also said, I never said any of those things.
Apparently, Adam Schefter, you have to lose Aaron Rodgers' number. That's all false. He's telling him to lose his number. Look.
Okay, hold on. Did you believe him? Do you believe that he never provided a list of players?
Of course he did, because he said it in interviews. Like, oh, they asked me about Alan Lazard. Of course, I would say he's a great guy. Or who wouldn't want Odell Beckham? He's indirectly saying that I did mention it and I did talk about how I want these guys, but I didn't formally send a list. And that, I think Aaron Rodgers. I think the biggest thing we all learned about him today is he's a master at flipping the script and manipulating the media and turning things around and making himself look in the positive light. He's talking about nobody bleeds green and gold like me. Nobody, I'm the best Packer of all time. I love that city. I went to this one Indian restaurant and they got great food.
He's named after the store owners. Yeah. And he's smart too, right? Because he has all of these viewers, was up to 400,000, 500,000 viewers
people
watching Pat McAfee's show. He's keeping everyone in the palm of his hand, waiting for him to say something. So it's very smart on his end. But what he also did was he put the blame on everyone else except himself.
Exactly.
Right? That's exactly what he did there. I mean, listen, if he's going to join the Jets, great. But it'd be nicer just to get the decision a bit quicker, man.
I know. He wanted to drag this on. If I was him, I'd probably drag it on too. I'm not gonna lie. But
for us in the media, it's nonstop.
I know,
like, what are we gonna talk about?
It's every single day. The past few years, it's been every single day about Aaron Rodgers. Remember, you almost got traded to the Denver Broncos back then. Remember that?
COVID was about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think this is gonna be exciting though. The league. We'll see what happens with the press though. The press in New York, they're gonna come out.
They're gonna be tough on him, man. They ate Tim Tebow up and they spat him out, and he's done after that.
Yeah.
And we'll see
what
Rodgers,
because big personality than most quarterbacks.
Yeah. I think if anybody can handle the New York media and kind of push it back at them, it's this guy Aaron Rodgers. He's, from everything people say about him, the guy can speak, and
he goes against the grain.
And he goes against the grain.
Yeah. In the AFC East, where do you rank the Jets? With Aaron Rodgers and now Lazard. Don't even think about Odell and any of those
Still, the Bills are the class of that division until further notice, in my opinion. And I feel like the Dolphins. Okay, let's say with health. Given health, I got the Dolphins. I think they're
I think they're the third best team in that division. I don't think they're the. We'll see. Like, I even think like they're on the same level as like the Raiders.
Yeah.
Like a fringe playoff team that will be playing meaningful football at the end of the season. But I don't know if they're a slam dunk division favorite, Super Bowl contender at this particular one, because you don't know what you're gonna get with Aaron Rodgers and how committed is he in the offseason.
I mean, the Jets went 7-10 last season. It was a fun season for them, but obviously now you're adding Aaron Rodgers. Things can change, but we'll have to wait and see. Jelani's going to come back later. We're going to talk about the Raptors and a big win against the Denver Nuggets. But coming up next, Crina Mustafa to talk NCAA March Madness. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. Joining us now is Steven Psihogios of NorthStar Bets. He's also our resident Buffalo Bills fan. Psihogios, Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. How do you feel?
Well, the Jets, they've been looking high and low for quarterback, and they've got their guy apparently here in Aaron Rodgers. I just wonder, if he wasn't good enough to lead the Packers to a playoff spot in the NFC, how's he going to do it in the AFC? I understand the Jets are a better team, but look around. There's not a bunch of mid quarterbacks, coined the term that we used last
Daniel
week
Jones
in the
walking
AFC.
around.
Daniel Jones isn't making the playoffs in the AFC. Are you kidding me? You've got the best QBs in the league. So for me, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I would have tried to find a nice home somewhere in the NFC, maybe Carolina before they made that trade, or a Tampa Bay. I would not have come to the AFC.
No, the AFC East is stacked. I mean, it's a tough division to be in. I mean, if he gets his wish list, well, he said that he didn't have a wish list, but it's there. Lazard's going there. Who knows what's going to happen? Odell Beckham Jr. It could be a different looking team come the start of the season, but forget that. We were just talking about the NFL. Time to talk some hockey. The Leafs back in action tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. Some news to get to quickly, Stevie. Ryan O'Reilly to return before the playoffs. That's good news, according to Kyle Dubas. He mentioned that at the GM meetings. Luke Shen joined the team, not expected to play tonight. Samsonov expected to start. And once again, Stevie, 11 forward, 7D, and at practice, Yarncroke was with Marner and Matthews. How do you feel about this 11 and 7D going forward?
Well, you know what? It's good to try it. If you're going to try it, now is the time to see how it works and experiment with it. It's obviously unconventional, right? You don't see that in the playoffs. You don't see teams rolling out 11 and 7 all that often. But if you want to try it for the meantime, go for it. Dubas, they've got to do something. He traded for all these defensemen at the deadline. If he wants to get them some ice time and for them to earn their pay, he's got to go 11 and 7, I guess.
Yeah, I'm interested to stick on the defensive side of the game for the Leafs. Albert had a little hot take yesterday saying that Morgan Riley should be sitting, be a healthy scratch, be up in the press box.
I mean, I suggested if you're going to go with 7D.
Yeah.
And okay, so basically this, Stevie, take the salaries away from this question. If you were to cut someone out of the top 6 or out of the 7 defensemen, who would it be right now?
I don't think it's Riley. I see where you're getting at. He hasn't been playing well this year, but my thing is he's their number 1 guy, and he probably shouldn't be a number 1 on a Stanley Cup contender. I think it all comes back to they're asking him to do more than what he should be doing. He shouldn't be the guy on a defense core. I think Riley is a great number 2, but to me, he just doesn't have the high enough offensive skills to be the number 1, and he doesn't have the high-end defensive skills to be a number one. I think he's a well-rounded player that shouldn't be a number one.
Yeah, but Stevie, take away the offense, right? Because on this team, he doesn't need to be this big-time offensive defenseman like we see, in Carlson, who's having an unbelievable year, because the Leafs already have that. It's just him defensively and the giveaways and the turnovers, and he's lacking confidence. And since he came back from the injury, he hasn't been the same player. So I'm just saying, if you're going to go with healthy scratches on the back end with Schenn coming back, he's probably one of the guys who's in the conversation. It won't happen because of the salary and who he is, and he's obviously Dubas's guy. But I just think that at the moment, if the salary wasn't an issue, he'd probably be one of those guys.
I'll flip it around on you here. If you were to take Riley out of the lineup, what is the top pairing now on the Maple Leafs? Who would you have on that top two?
That's the issue, right?
You there.
You would I totally get it. And you would think, hey, listen, maybe we're going to go with more defensive pairs up top rather than an offensive pair. You would like maybe another offensive guy to slot in like Rasmus Sandin, but he's no longer there anymore.
Exactly.
Right. So I don't know if that move is going to come back to bite them in the ass later. I just think Morgan Riley hasn't been great. And if it was up to me, he might get chopped for a couple games. Just saying.
Send a message, right?
Send a message.
Speaking of sending a message, Stevie, tonight they take on the defending champs, of course, the Colorado Avalanche, who have had an up and down regular season with injuries. Of course, Gabriel Landeskog has been out. What do you see with the Avs going into tonight and just kind of encompassing their whole season so far?
Well, it was a rocky start. They dealt with a lot of injuries, and they had the loss of Nazem Kadri, too, going to the Calgary Flames. So they've been trying to figure out that number 2 center role. And I don't know if they still have figured it out. The results have been better as of late for Colorado. They're starting to kind of go on the upswing. And they've been a better road team than a home team this year, which is encouraging for Colorado, especially tonight against Toronto. I think the Avs are starting to find their footing. If you look at Nathan MacKinnon's numbers since the calendar flipped to 2023, he's arguably been the best player in the league. And that's saying something because, McDavid's in the same league as he is. But he leads the league in shots, leads the league in even strength points, and number 2 in total points, only behind Connor McDavid. I think they're starting to find their stride, which is a concern for the rest of the Western Conference, because let's be honest, we joked earlier off the top of the show about the AFC versus the NFC. You can make similar jokes about the Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference. Yep. The Avs have been dormant really for this whole season. They haven't been playing to the level we've seen them play, but nobody has stepped up to take their spot at the top of the Western Conference.
And if they somehow finish in a wild card spot, because it's not solid that they're not going to be in the wild card spot. McKinnon came out and said no one wants to see us in a wild card.
No,
right? Everyone said that. If Colorado, if they just make it, they can make a run in the West because of how weak it is and how good that they are. Auston Matthews, Stevie, he's come out and said today that he's been dealing with a hand injury. He said it's been bothering him. He told Jonas Siegel of The Athletic, it's just like we felt something was off. I just felt not completely like I wasn't able to do exactly what I wanted to do at times. And this kind of explains a lot. We talked about this before. The amount of shots that he's taking this year compared to last year, it's down. Are you surprised that he's come out and said, listen, I'm dealing with something right now?
I'm not too surprised. I think, Dubas alluded to it earlier this year. So everyone kind of figured something was going on with Matthews, that there was more to the story than just what we knew. So for him to confirm it, I think is a positive for Leafs fans because they've been kind of keeping it under wraps all this time. He did mention that it's starting to feel better. So I'd assume he made the comment knowing that it's either at 100% or very close to it. And I talked about this last week too when I was on with Matthews. The shot volume was starting to go up and it was encouraging. He had those 3 games in a row with 4+ shots. Well, you look at what he did on the weekend, 8 shots against the Oilers and then 5 shots against the Sabres. I think Matthews is pretty much rounding at the form here just before the playoffs start.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're going to need. Speaking of that wrist and stuff like that, you mentioned, I kind of agree with you about that, how you put it out now that it must be 100%. Going into the playoffs, everybody's talking about the contract situation and what's going to go on with Auston Matthews. Is this playoff or this playoff run the biggest indicator on what is going to be going forward for Auston Matthews in his future in Toronto? Have they flame out? Does he say, I'm done, I'm leaving? Or if they go on a bit of an extended run, all right, I'm going to stick around. What do you see how this spring plays for Auston Matthews' future?
I think he already has a decision. I think whether he's leaving or not, he already knows in his mind. I don't think this playoffs will ultimately determine whether he stays or goes. maybe a little bit, but I do think that he has made that decision on whether he's staying in Toronto or leaving. Playoff success would be great, and I'm sure Leafs fans would say, oh, he's definitely staying now. We've got him. We're going on this run with him. How could he possibly leave? But in the same token, Matthews is a guy that, he is a unique personality in this league, and he's someone who I think is going to do what he wants to do at the end of the day. There's a market for Auston Matthews, whether it be here in Toronto or elsewhere. So ultimately, I think that's his decision. That I don't think any sort of playoff success or playoff failure is going to sway it one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And for Leafs fans, I mean, they're going to hope and pray that Auston Matthews stays with them. Okay, quickly. Leafs Avs, Leafs favorite at home around -140, -150. Who do you like tonight?
I'm going with the Avalanche just for the plus money value. You got two of the league's best teams. Both are playing pretty well. The Avs have won 9 of their last 13, so they're looking pretty solid as well. The Leafs have been good. But I'm just going to take the plus money odds here with the road team. And as I mentioned earlier, the Avalanche, a good road team. So I don't mind eating some of that value that you get on the Avs as a plus money underdog tonight.
Quickly, about just under a minute left. Anything else you like on the ice tonight? 4 games.
You know what? I really like the Sabres. It was at plus 100 earlier today. I think it moved to -103 over at NorthStar Bets, but I like Buffalo against Washington. The Capitals playing their second game in as many nights, 1-6-1 this year on 0 days rest.
Stevie, I got to give you a big shout out. I tailed you with the Coyotes last night. Thank you very
much
for inflating my bankroll. All right, he's been Steven Psihogios for NorthStar Bets. Stevie, thanks again. Let's do this soon.
Yeah, let's chat soon, guys.
All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. Thanks to Stevie of NorthStar Bets for joining us. Now joining us in studio, the one, the only, Crina Mustafa of the program. Hi, Crina.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
First time on the show, so long-time listener, first time on the show.
Not gonna lie, I don't know if you can consider me a long-time listener because I didn't know he was gonna be with us today.
Oh, wow. She doesn't listen.
My co-host Justin Pooni, the show's only been going on for 2 weeks, so he can't really be that long of a listener. Let's talk about some tennis. Indian Wells is ongoing at the moment. 2 Canadians unfortunately bumped out, Bianca Andresscu and Leylah Fernandez. Where are you at with Bianca? I mean, her last major win coming at the U.S. Open in 2019, but not so much since then.
Yeah, it's been a long road back, honestly. I feel like I keep saying that she's still working on coming back, but she kind of is back already. Like, it's been a year now almost since she's returned to the tour after her mental break and a couple of injuries as well. But I think I'm still like positive with her because a lot of people are saying that she was washed, but in reality, if you look at her match against Iga Swiatek, who she was eliminated with, she was the only player that actually pushed Iga and to be competitive. And in that second set, she had an opportunity to go up 5-2 and possibly force that third set, but she couldn't capitalize on that. And obviously Iga ended up winning in straight sets. So that gave me a little bit of hope. I think she just needs to continue to get more matches under her belt and get more of that experience kind of being on the highest level again. Because I feel like she's still kind of getting used to that. But I think that we've seen good enough flashes from her that she can continue to be one of the elites. So,
I mean, her and Leylah Fernandez, 2 young Canadian tennis players, up-and-comers, very good at what they do. Still have a lot of time left in their career. Jeannie Bouchard kind of, we don't know what's going on there. She was kind of touted as the one that was going to be the next Canadian great in terms of women tennis players. I don't think that's the case anymore. But moving forward, who do you think is going to carry the flag for them?
Yeah, honestly, if you had asked me like 2 years ago, I would have said Bianca just because of the way that she had won her first major that quickly. And we saw Leylah make it to the final of the U.S. Open just 2 years ago now, I guess. And so we've seen that they can get to that highest level. I think they still will be the future of Canadian tennis. And I think that they can get, I think Bianca could probably get another major in her career and that Leylah could still get there as long as she keeps improving. But I also think that we need to manage our expectations. And I think like Jeannie Bouchard is a good example of that, where she made that Wimbledon final and all the hype was around her. But then what happened after that, right? So it's just, even though they're still really good, I feel like we still need to temper expectations, be lower on the expectations, and then they'll impress you with their results.
Right. Now, thinking about, on the flip to the men's side, Felix Auger-Aliassime is now on to the 4th round at Indian Wells. Of course, it's kind of the similar topic we were talking about with the women's side of the game. Is Felix now the flag bearer on the men's side of the game? He's that guy for Canadian men's tennis going forward.
I think, yeah, if you look at that core four where it's Denis Shapovalov, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Bianca, and Layla, I think Felix has the most talent out of them and has the most potential. We saw it in October of last year. He won like 3 tournaments in a row and was probably one of the best tennis players in the world at that point. And I think now his level has maybe dropped a little bit since then, but I still think that he has the sharpest tennis out of those 4. I think his serve is ginormous. The way he hits the ball is if he dictates his game against his opponents, like there's no beating him. It's nice to see him rack up a couple of consecutive wins here at Indian Wells because he did have some trouble at the Australian Open. So maybe if he can get further into Indian Wells, maybe to the finals, hopefully.
Momentum heading into Wimbledon. And
I think that would help him quite a bit with getting his confidence back, because I think that's one of the biggest things. You start to lose some matches after winning so many in a row, and you start to question yourself, like, am I actually good enough?
He seems like a really likable guy too, which I think is really going to help his brand, right? If you want to become one of the best tennis players in the world, I think that also comes with it, right? In an individual sport.
Absolutely. I mean, you want that likability.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the Billie Jean King Cup is coming up soon. Canada is going to be sending one of its most stacked squads ever to take on Belgium.
In your home.
In my hometown of Vancouver. Yes, exactly. Thank you for reminding everybody that. But previewing that, looking ahead to that, Canada has not had a lot of success against Belgium. Can they finally go over the hump against Belgium and, really cement, on home soil? Can they put out a good performance?
I think Tennis Canada announcing that Bianca, Layla, Gabby Dabrowski is also heading to play in these qualifiers.
Vancouver native.
Like, these 4 right now are probably Canada's most successful women. And so I think that announcing that all of them have put their commitment into this event is huge for them. And I think they definitely have a chance to do well against Belgium, especially being in Vancouver is like hometown, like even for them, like it's still Canada is Canada. So I'm excited. Hopefully I'll be there.
Yeah.
Let's talk some NCAA. The women's side, March Madness is going on. The first 4 starts tonight. The rest starts on Thursday. 26 Canadians in this tournament. Lots of standout Canadians in terms of who's going to go all the way. And there's one on South Carolina that you have your eye on.
Letitia Amma here. Listen, South Carolina Gamecocks are the real deal. They went undefeated in the regular season. They won their conference tournament. They're led by Dawn Staley. Aaliyah Boston is like probably one of the best women's college players right now. And we have that Canadian Letitia on the team. And they won last year. She won last year. They have that experience. And I think the fact that they've been so dominant this season, I have them as my repeat
going all
champions.
The way.
Yeah. Like if I look at my like final 4, I kind of have like South Carolina and Stanford and then Indiana and UConn. And I still think that South Carolina can do it. I don't know.
They're favored to win it all. Minus 175 to go all the way.
Look, any tips, bracketology tips? Because everybody's filling out their bracket, the men's bracket, the women's bracket. What is some strategies that you took into making your bracket?
My strategy is don't overthink the matchups. I don't think a lot of upsets are going to happen. Okay. So like even if somebody might tell you like, oh, there might be some upsets here. No. Trust the teams that have done well this season. I think they've shown that there might be maybe an upset here or there, but I don't think anything too big. So just keep it simple when making your bracket.
Double up on number 1 seeds, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's the move to go on both sides of the bracket, men's and women's. Can we just talk about, the coverage that the women's side is getting? I mean, I think over recent years, not very much. Now, a little bit more so, and we'll get into the WNBA and how that's kind of blowing up now in terms of media coverage. Are you surprised that it's happening now rather than a bit sooner?
I mean, I wish it was a bit sooner, but at this point, I mean, if you look at, especially, I don't know what the numbers are in Canada because I feel like our broadcasters still have a way to go with covering college basketball, but the number of viewers on the women's side in the States has grown exponentially. I think Fox just announced that they average like over 600,000 viewers for this regular season.
That's more than NHL games.
It's more than a lot of leagues. So I think like seeing that, I think there's been more with social media as well. I think that's the key. Like there's been more attention on social media in terms of viewership and people tuning in, and that's gotten more attention. And I feel like with that, more coverage should come, but it just feels like the men have been the default of coverage. Like you think March Madness and then you think, oh, it's just the men, but no, the women are playing too. And they're actually pretty good at the basketball thing.
They are. Now, Albert mentioned 26 Canadian women are in the tournament. Of course, the WNBA does have an upcoming preseason game in Toronto that is sold out. I know you were one of the lucky ones that actually got tickets. So people out there, if you need tickets, you got to harass Crina respectfully to try to get a ticket for her. Just how big is this going to be for the game, the women's game in our country, to see the best players in the world here and then just inspire a whole nother generation where potentially this could be double. There could be 50 plus, Canadian women in a March Madness tournament shortly. Like, what does the impact of it mean to you and to other basketball fans in general in Canada?
Yeah, I think women's basketball in Canada has been on the rise. I mean, the success they've had at the Olympics is a big part of that. I feel like even at the collegiate level, there's a lot of talent there. And getting it on a stage where you finally moved a game into Canada, watching it be sold out that quickly shows how we can actually support the growth of women's basketball here on any level. And like, this is an example of on a professional level that we can actually do it. People want basketball here. They crave more of it. And so having it be in the summer as well, to me, is really important because you'll have less eyes on like the NBA, for example, during the year because their seasons don't overlap. And then that's how you grow. You get more games to come here every year. Eventually, maybe that leads to better broadcast deals and then maybe eventually a team.
Why is it taking so long for the WNBA to come here?
There is a lot of issues. The first and most prominent one is probably the flight issue, that all the teams fly commercial, and I think there would be trouble with like customs and all of that, and could just literally commercial flights in general. Just think about the troubles you have as a regular person flying in and out of the country, and then think about like if basketball teams had to do that like regularly. So once they figure that part out in the next CBA negotiation, I feel like that would help. Also, just the number of roster sizes on each WNBA team is not as many. I think it's like 12 right now. And there's just all these different things that need to be done to grow the league itself before we can talk about expansion.
So internally, the WNBA needs to do more on their part for them to expand. Would you feel comfortable in saying that in the next 5 years, Canada will have a WNBA team?
I mean, the commissioner keeps announcing that, but she keeps also pushing the date back. So
a lot of talk, yeah.
We'll see. There's a lot of talk. There's definitely people and organizations that would have enough money to buy a team here. So I don't see it financially being a problem. But it's just a matter of actually doing it. So hopefully.
Hopefully it happens, right? Drake's been talking about
Drake's
it too.
been talking about it.
He's got the do-re-mi.
Listen, it's okay. We don't need to include Drake.
I need to ask with the Raptors quickly. Do they make the playoffs or the play-in, or do they miss it both quickly?
I mean, they could make the play-in. I don't
need an answer. Be definitive.
Fine, they will make the play-in.
Oh,
okay. There we go.
That's not really going out on a limb, though. But no, I agree with you. Quickly, so the WNBA draft is April 20th. The March Madness tournament ends April 2nd. A lot of pressure on some of these ladies heading into the finals and heading into the WNBA season, because it's almost like they're in the shop window, in the spotlight.
There are a lot of seniors. Yeah, there are a lot of seniors who have to quickly turn their lives around after being successful at a tournament or possibly going all the way.
It's an
and all of a
exciting
sudden
time,
you're
though.
like, oh, I finished college. Like, I have to go to the pros now. Like, what is happening? But yeah, it'll be chaotic. But I feel like a lot of the eyes will still have been on women's basketball, which maybe might lead to the W draft.
Yeah, hopefully this big year continues for women's basketball. Crina Mustafa of the program, she's fantastic. Make sure you follow her at Crina. I was just pulling it up here. MM.
Yes.
Why the double M?
Well, my middle name and my last name.
What's your real name?
Maria.
Crina Maria Mustafa. All right, that's it for this segment. Coming up, me and Justin, I was going to say Jelani, Justin, are going to talk some WWE. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. Now, time to talk some Toronto Raptors, and I cannot figure out this team, but a big win at home against the Denver Nuggets, 125-110. It seems like they have the Nuggets number, Jelani. Justin Pooni across from me. They didn't win the first game. Controversial call at the end of that game, which led to some other things that happened. Fred VanVleet going after the officials. But against the Denver Nuggets, the best team in the West, the Raptors seem to be very good when they play them. And OG, which we'll get into, did another good job on Jokic again.
He did. I'm very impressed with OG, man. This year, he's been playing well. Like, defensively, we understand who he is, right? But I think at the start of the year, he was playing like an all-defensive team, first team type of guy. Got hurt. And then since he's been back from his wrist injury, right, he's been solid. And he's been, manning the guy on the other side of the court, the best player on the other team.
Always.
While, meanwhile, he's scoring He's giving you 20+ points per game. That me and Justin on Hoop Talks, we've been talking like, is it possible that we could see that this season from OG Anunoby? And if that can happen, I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen every night. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be consistent scoring from OG, but there are some games where you're gonna need guys to step up because, again, let's talk about it. Pascal right now, he's not really playing well in terms of the scoring, so you need other guys to pick up that slack. OG's doing that for us, so I like that. And then obviously with the defense, you're covering the MVP of the league, right? You're covering these guys the best. Well, in my opinion, my estimation, Jokic is the MVP. And he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, OG put up numbers again: 24 points, 10 for 14, 4 from 8 from downtown, 15 threes in the past 4 games. That's good enough for 56% from 3-point line.
Look, we know OG Anunoby has offensive skills, not on the most consistent level like elite NBA players, but we know his best abilities on the defensive side of the floor. But I really want to get in on Pascal Siakam. Yes, it was because think about it, it was a good win. Look, the Nuggets are in shambles right now defensively. They don't play a lick of defense. Mike Malone has been preaching about it and getting very upset about it. But when I look at Pascal, man, like 12 points, another rough night from the office scoring wise, like. They can't survive off that going forward, I think. And I think that, to me, is the biggest key. Look, Fred showed up in a big way. Big way. 36 points, 7 assists, 8 3-pointers. Great. But you need Pascal Siakam to show up, and he hasn't shown up the last couple of weeks. And I think that right there is something. And again, the bench really didn't show up either, right? So it was a good win. But that first quarter, that hot start kind of just carried him, and they almost blew it.
And let's not forget about the run that Denver went on in that third quarter. It was like a 26-7 run at one point, right? And then when you're talking about the Eastern Conference, right? We're seeing on the screen right now. All these teams are solid, right? All these teams have that star, right? All stars. We have one in Pascal Siakam, but then on Justin's point, you got to be consistent, right? And maybe is it because Jakob Poeltl's here now? Is he trying to figure things out? I don't know.
Is he overworked?
Is he overworked from
back-to-back seasons leading the team in minutes played? But I want to. That's good that you brought up Pascal Siakam. Nick Nurse touched on why maybe Pascal Siakam is slumping.
That probably feels like a bad night for him. You know what I mean? Where he is and the caliber of player that he is. You know, you want to have 30 and 20 and 15 every night. But it doesn't always work out like that, and the way that we play, it just kind of moves around, and you got to be okay with just making the plays. And when you win, it's a little bit easier, and when you're winning consistently, it's easier. And when you're losing, it's tough. It kills your energy, and it, you get down on yourself. But P's been great for us, and he's carried a lot this year. So he certainly, has got to keep his spirits up, and I'll be there to try to keep him confident and keep him rolling because we're definitely going to need him.
Nick Nurse is starting to look a lot like
Fred VanVleet,
I think. Freddie, I mean, he's obviously going to back up his player. Freddie putting in a fantastic performance last night. 36 points, 7 assists, 3 steals, 8 3-points made. Another great night for a leader in Freddie VanVleet. But does he have a point in saying that it's a lot easier when they're winning games for Pascal, your star on your team, to slump?
It's easier, but you still, if Pascal Siakam is an all-star, I need to see more consistent play, even winning or losing. Right?
But hold on, is this what Pascal is? Because we've seen this year in and year out.
I don't know, because he's been balling this year. Like if you look before the stretch, he was giving you 20
and that's
25 points
Freddie
per game.
alluded to. But he also said, right? Pascal said at the beginning of this year his goal was to be
top 5.
Is he anywhere near that? No. He's a top 20, 25 player.
But what do you chalk it up to? I think that's the billion-dollar question.
And I think, look, Pascal, his game has improved every year. He turned himself from a human Beyblade into an actual offense. Look, he's not a human Beyblade.
Hold on, you got to explain that.
You don't know that?
I know what a Beyblade is.
So, Pascal, remember Pascal used to always do the signature spin move like a human Beyblade. Right?
Okay.
He now has an offensive arsenal. He can take the
I think he meant he was bouncing off bodies in the lane.
No.
Okay.
No, he's improved his game a lot. He's improved his offensive arsenal, but he still doesn't have, and nobody on this Raptors team doesn't have that closing ability. When the game gets tight, who's the guy that's all right, give me the ball and I'll close the game.
Well, the Raptors don't have that. That's where you give that to Fred VanVleet from downtown, or you look for Gary Trent Jr. from downtown.
This team is so Jekyll and Hyde though this year. Like they put up a performance like this, like they did against the Denver Nuggets last night, but who knows what team's going to show up against OKC tomorrow?
I don't know, because even Nick Nurse pointed it out right in the post game, not too long ago against the Lakers. They had a good start. They were the good Raptors, he said, and then ultimately they were the bad Raptors. So I was impressed that we actually finished the game for once, right? because moving forward, you want to play for that play-in spot. These are playoff games now, right? So you have to finish. You have to find a way to finish. I'm saying to myself, and a lot of Raptors fans are looking at, okay, we have a stretch now, right? Can we build off of this win? We'll see. We'll see, because you're playing some contenders out west, right? Thunder are playing better now. Minnesota is playing well. So that's where Pascal Siakam, I want him to step up. I want him to step up because there's like, what, 12-ish kind of games left. I think this is a time for him to feel good. You want your guys to feel good before the playoffs start. That's my thing. I think before the playoffs start or play-in starts, you want to have a flow. You want to be balling and have a flow before that happens.
13 games left in the regular season, right? The next 3 are against OKC, Minnesota, and Milwaukee. You're going to have to win 2 of those 3 to stay into this race. Because if they fall, they're not going to get the 6th seed anymore. That's a long gone. The max they could do is maybe the 8th seed, right? And get a home playoff day. But if they keep on sliding, man, this could just get worse and worse. They need to really stop the inconsistency and really find a way to play some consistent basketball this next couple weeks, because it's make or break time. There's no more excuses. There's no more leeway. The time is now for the Toronto Raptors, and especially Pascal Siakam.
Pascal, I guess, him not playing well has the benefit of 2 other players who are playing actually 3 if you include Jakob Poeltl with OG and Fred VanVleet. I thought OG was...
Scotty had a good game too.
Yeah, he did. But I thought OG was excellent last night. He's been excellent for the past 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, he's been balling.
Yeah, and so even Nick Nurse mentioned that OG has been one of their best players, and he had this to say.
We know OG's a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. I think Yak's rolling ability has given him some more looks because we've been able to get some of that, but he also feels a lot better. I mean, he's had 2 injuries this year, 1 to each hand, and I know it hasn't been easy for him, and he's played through a lot of it, and I think he's back to just feeling like he can catch it better, he can feel it better, he can release it better, and all that stuff. So I know that's kind of a funky thing to think about, but it's probably the truth.
Right now, is OG Anunoby the best Toronto Raptor? Scratch that. The most important Toronto Raptor.
Most important? No. I still look at Pascal because he's your best player, right? And you're gonna need him, right? And this is a sport where you need your best player to show up, to win games, right? But I think OG, if he could continue this run that he's on, it's going to be great for Toronto for sure, right? Because I pointed out earlier how that offense is there. We know what he's going to do defensively, right? He's going to definitely cover the guy that's number 1 or 1A, 1B on the other team. Yeah. He's going to hold them down and take, the lion's share of the defensive assignments that night. But offensively, right, when you could get him, like Nick pointed out, that catch and shoot. This guy last 4 games had 15 threes, right? That's helpful in my opinion.
But is that
right?
Is that gonna last though?
Is that gonna last? That's a question, right? We know that the defense is there. Like I said, the offense it's been something that's been developing year after year after year. Slow progress, but we're getting there. We're getting there, right? I think he's in a groove right now, and possibly. This could help us, get in. Look, the 6th seed, that's not going to happen, right? But the 7th seed's still alive. The 8th seed's it's still alive mathematically, right?
Mathematically.
Yeah, thank you.
My whole thing
he's got to continue.
My whole thing on OG, name another player on the Raptors who can do what he does. Can any other player guard
with a both way,
like a two-way star? And even in this little stretch run, from now, let's say until the end of the season, he averages, 22 a game. Yeah. And he's locking down all these stars. 22 a game. I'm just saying, if he gets to that point, right? I think he automatically becomes the best player and most important player on the Raptors because no one else can do what he does. Who else are you going to put on Jokic? Who else are you going to put on Kawhi?
No one.
Who?
No one.
You're not putting Siakam.
I just think that because I said Siakam, right? The thing with him is when he doesn't score, right? You're betting on somebody to step up, and this season it's been a question, like, who is that other guy, right? Who is that other guy, right? So let's say Pascal does step up, does continue what we've seen from him all year, all-star and all that stuff. We're in a much better position rather than going every night and playing these contenders and saying, okay, is it going to be Fred? Is he going to be OG, Scotty? I don't know.
Jelani, I think that's what this team is.
You can't.
I think it really is a team effort, and every night it's going to be someone different.
And that's a great thing to have, a team that has enough guys that have the ability to score 20 points. But I think, like you mentioned, in the NBA especially, you need to have a guy who's like I know I can get 20 points automatically in his sleep, because if you don't have that, OG can get 20, be averaging 20 points a game for a couple of games in a row, but then he disappears for 3-4 games. Gary Trent can get drop 6-7 threes in the game, goes on a cold spell. Fred VanVleet, Scotty, same thing. There needs to be a consistency with this team. We have not seen it all year, and I feel, and I'm afraid that's going to be their downfall this season, is that there's no consistency. They go on these hot streaks and they go cold, hot, cold. That to me is the biggest problem with Toronto Raptors.
You know what? The cold and hot streaks happen in game as well.
Yes,
I know, right?
1-2 last night, amazing. Third quarter, what happened? Fourth quarter, they're back.
I know.
Let me ask you guys: when was the last time you saw a complete Toronto Raptors performance?
I really got to think about
last night might have been the closest.
But they almost blew it. They almost blew 20
I get that, but that's what I'm saying though. Yeah. That's probably the closest. It's unfortunate this conversation about the Raptors needing a closer. It's going to go on and on until I'm not sure when. Until
they get one.
Until Pascal becomes that guy. But
can he become that guy?
I was going to say at a certain point when you say, okay, this is just who he is.
Yeah, I just Pascal. Again, he's a good player. I like him a lot, but we know there's limitations to his game, right? And he's a guy that's really, really good. But again, like Justin pointed out, when it matters the most, I need a bucket from you, okay? Less than a minute left.
Yeah.
Can I rely on Pascal to hit a game winner, right? And I'm not talking about a buzzer beater. I'm just talking like a dagger
when you're down 3, he can get you a basket to put
it back.
Or when you're up 3, he can make it a 2-possession game. That's
or looking at a quarter, can I rely on you to keep us afloat in the fourth quarter rather than us, falling flat on our face as per usual, which we've seen in 20-point lead the last month and a half, right?
When that stuff happens, right? You see that Fred, sometimes even OG, sometimes even Scotty, they try and force. Because their guy is not. And Freddie even said that last night. He's like, yeah, a couple of shots I forced, but sometimes you got to do that when you get into a certain rhythm and the players around you aren't making the shots that they're making, right? So it changes the entire offense when Pascal isn't at the top of his game. But I think with this team, it's going to be a collective effort from now until the end of the season, and a collective effort will not win you a championship in the NBA.
Oh no! Look, championship Toronto Raptors not happening.
For
a minute, right? But again, let's say we do make the playoffs, right? You're going to play a Boston, you're going to play a Milwaukee, really? So it's going to be a collective effort.
But defensively, I mean, nothing's consistent with this team, but defensively, it's probably been one of their strong suits.
I don't know, because Albert, look at that
with Pirtle. Pre-Pirtle, no.
But even look at that Lakers game. Okay?
D'Angelo Russell,
Austin Reeves, Hachimura, they went crazy. I don't know, man.
Yeah. So we're running out of time. Here, the producer yelling in my ear. I don't know how much time we got left, but the Raptors will be back in action against OKC coming up later this week. But coming up next, me and Justin Pooni wrap up the show with some WWE talk. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. Albert Vartanian and Justin Pooni. It's time for the
Banter Zone.
End of the show. Oh. Yes, end of Banter Zone. You screwed that up. All right, we're going to talk some wrestling. The Undertaker was just on with Ariel Helwani doing an interview, and he said Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, Austin, and Hulk Hogan are on his Mount Rushmore. Here's Undertaker.
Their effect on the industry. So I'll go Andre, Flair, Austin, and Hogan, probably.
Wow. That one took a little bit to come out.
Yeah.
Why?
You know why.
Right.
It is what it is.
I mean, in the 80s.
That brother, he's the golden goose, man.
Right.
I love that, brother. He's the golden goose. I love how you know what it is.
I love how relaxed.
Hogan was never a great wrestler, but he was a draw.
You could cut a good promo, right? Yeah, and I like to see Undertaker in that relaxed state right now. Everybody always knows him as the dead man, and just the eyes roll to the back of his head like you see in the monitor.
I kind of hate it though.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of hate it. I kind of hate it
like that. He's chilling.
It's the Undertaker, but it's great to hear these stories. So anyway, that inspired Justin and myself to put together our own Mount Rushmore. So Elner, can you pull up? Here we go. Don't mind Justin's picture there. It looks like a mugshot. Justin goes with The Rock. Okay, Stone Cold. Yeah. John Cena and The Undertaker. I'm not sure about John Cena.
See, but
I know you just started watching wrestling yesterday.
No, that's not the thing. I've been watching wrestling since the Attitude Era, man. I was watching professional wrestling before I was watching sports.
Cena's a top guy, but he's not Mount Rushmore guy.
The thing with me is Cena brought me back to wrestling when he did the whole rapping gimmick and all that. That to me brought
you back in.
Brought me back in, right? That brought me back in. I will say this though. Shout out to honorary guys just off my Mount Rushmore. Edge Canadian. I think Edge is the greatest heel in WWE history. Come on.
Edge.
Edge is the greatest heel in WWE
Edge
history.
is good, but he's not Mount Rushmore good.
To me, he is. That just shows you.
So who did I have up on there? I had Brett, Austin, Flair, and Undertaker. I mean, you can't really argue with that. Brett is like, it's almost just, that's one of my picks. I'm like, I love Brett, right? He was my number one guy.
You have Bruno Sammartino
Come
up
on.
there.
I know somebody who's named after Bruno Sammartino.
Of course you do.
I do. But that's not the wrestling I started watching. But I'm not that old, dude, this guy. John Cena, no chance. Any honorable mentions outside of Edge?
Batista.
Come on.
I'll put Ric Flair up in there.
Batista.
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking Sting. You could even throw like
Kevin
Scott
Nash.
Hall and
Yeah, the whole NWO. I don't know. You got to do the NWO and DX. To me, is kind of one entity. They're kind of one thing. You can't.
Shawn Michaels has probably got to be on there.
Yeah, I think so. But you know what? That's my list, and I'm sticking with it.
John Cena. Come on,
John
son.
Cena. You can't see me.
Thank you so much for watching today. Me and Justin will be back tomorrow with more Homestand Show.